Making an educational video is easy, right? All you need to have is an idea, a camera, the ability to push record, and you're done, right? Well, no, that is not even remotely correct. It takes a lot more than that, because just pressing record like that will make for less than a stellar video. That would be a personal vlog, not an educational video. I don't make vlogs. I often say it's actually easy to make videos, bad videos. It's a lot of work to make a good educational video. Clients are always surprised when I give them a quote that is more expensive and takes more time than they expected. I'm Dr. Dave, and I'll be discussing message design principles for educational videos. That's me in the videos you see here, hosting short 2-minute historic videos I make for the Nevada State Historic Preservation Office. I collected video design principles from various academic sources and combined them with my own experiences. I call this collection 13 Must-Dos, Tips and Tricks to Make a Better Educational Video. This presentation is divided into 2 videos: planning a video and recording a video. In my world of video production, we call these pre-production and production. One phase you don't see here is the editing phase, what video and film people call post-production. We'll discuss that phase very briefly at the end of the second video. The planning phase. Ralph White wrote a short article that summarized much of his experience creating training films for the U.S. military forces during and after World War II. One of the most salient phrases in his article, Planning Films That Teach, from 1956, is that when beginning an educational film, ask the client, what is this film intended to do to whom? I ask people this question all the time. Let's break it down into 3 parts. Ask what the content or issue is that you need to address. This is fairly obvious and is likely one of the first topics you'll think of. But you must think further. Ask what the video should do to the learners in terms of the learning outcome expected. In other words, what do you want your audience to think, do, or feel once they finish watching the video? There are 3 areas of outcomes, which should sound familiar. Cognitive outcomes, such as organizing, creating, reciting, solving, evaluating, and synthesizing information. Behavioral outcomes refer to actions in the psychomotor domain, such as welding or playing tennis. Affective outcomes are those internal emotions, attitudes, and feelings that we cannot observe directly, but only indirectly. Ask who your target audience is. The learning analysis found in the second stage of the Morrison, Ross, and Kemp model emphasizes the importance of this stage of planning. You need to examine your audience's attributes, such as their attention spans, prior knowledge, and prior misconceptions. Today, I would also add how your audience will consume your videos. Will they watch them on their giant 6-foot TV screen in their living room, on their laptop, or on their phone? Knowing how big or how small their screen will be will impact how you film your video. Here's an example, the St. Augustine's Cultural Center in historic Austin, Nevada. When I approached the video, I asked what the content should be. What issue needs addressing? As I talked with the president of the Cultural Center weeks before traveling, it became apparent that people love the unique history the former church offers, especially the interior murals. So, I planned on focusing on the interior spaces of the church, meaning I needed to bring lighting gear. The learning outcomes of all the videos in this Nevada history series are twofold: behavioral and affective. I want people to appreciate the unique history in Nevada, want to preserve it, and want to go see it for themselves. The audience for these videos comprises adults interested in Nevada history and who are willing and able to visit the various historical sites. Attention spans range, depending on where they are watching the video. Are people watching at home? If so, their attention spans could easily run to a half hour. If they are watching on their phones while driving around the town of Austin, then their attention spans will be much shorter. My team chose the latter possibility, so this video, and all in the series, is 2 minutes long. It's hard to determine the prior misconceptions of the general population, but here I went on the assumption that people viewed the church building as only a relic of the past with nothing interesting to offer people today. We worked hard to dispel that misconception as we discussed the interview questions beforehand. The second must-do is climb the ladder of interest. This technique is found in all documentaries, TV shows, Hollywood films, and good instructional videos. There are 3 parts to every movie. In Hollywood, the first part of a movie is the problem, found in the introduction. For educational media, we present the issue. The second part is the struggle, found in the middle of the movie. For educational media, this is where we present the methods to resolve the problem, such as the instructions regarding how to work the math problem, how to execute the tennis move, the steps to create educational videos, etc. The final part of movies is the resolution, which is found at the end. For educational media, we show the success by following the instructions. In the short documentary on the old Lincoln County Courthouse, I visited what the town calls the $1 Million Courthouse. The issue I tackled was how the county paid for the courthouse. The methods to resolve payments were terrible and failed miserably. The original cost of the courthouse, which was $26,400, ballooned to about $800,000. Success, if you can call it that, occurred decades after the courthouse was built. The video is certainly informative, but it has a story to tell, which makes it more interesting than just a list of facts to learn. The third must-do is that once you have an idea of the issue, methods, and success, you must learn about the topic, or work with a subject matter expert. In my examples of historic sites, I had to learn a bit about the history of each site first, before I traveled to the location. I needed some idea of what to shoot, what questions to ask, and what video equipment I would need. Be open to learning more once you get there, or as you work with the content. Adjust your plans accordingly. Ask people what they want the public to know. If you are working with a subject matter expert, be sure to ask this person what the students need to know so that you can be sure to include it. I make sure to spend time with museum directors, curators, and docents before starting to film. You need to get a good feel for the location or subject before you turn the camera on. Look for good backgrounds, good lighting, quiet places to interview, etc. If at all possible, look around the area, get a feel for the location, note good places to film, ideally before the day of shooting. It isn't always possible if you have to travel to the site, but if you're filming in your company's building or at your school, take time at least a few days before filming to scout out the area with your video in mind. Increase pleasure, decrease displeasure. Researchers found that pleasurable experiences when viewing educational videos lead to effective teaching, while boring videos lead to inattentive viewers. I hope you're paying attention, right? White tells us that, quote, films and teachers can only stimulate and guide the learning process. Learning is a voluntary experience that demands a willing and willful effort on the part of the learner. If we make educational videos that are boring, students will be less willing to watch them. Millerson, author of the Bible of television production since the 1960s, tells us that we need to capture the attention of the viewer early, lest other stimuli capture their attention. It's even worse now in the 21st century. The fifth must-do is write the story. This is where you determine the story you want to tell. Write a script, time yourself, practice the script out loud, even if someone else will be reading it. Then find or plan visuals to complement your verbals. Multimedia theory posits that this combination of visuals with verbals will lead to increased learning. We'll discuss this a bit more later. Part of writing the story may include creating a storyboard. Here's a storyboard from a TV commercial I did, a public service announcement called Always Read Labels. I'm terrible at drawing, as you can see, but I put down what I envisioned in my head onto paper. The boxes are what I want the audience to see, with notes as to what the actors are saying or doing below. Here you can see stills from the actual commercials as they match my drawings. When we were filming this, the script and the storyboards were on hand and used a lot. The sixth must-do relates to planning and permission. Depending on the video you create, you may need permission of location managers, a film permit, permission from your supervisor, a sign-off on the script by the subject matter expert, and other oversight to deal with. For my history videos, I had to contact historic sites and schedule visits. I found quickly that the second bit of advice is crucial. Do not overschedule yourself. Video takes time, as does travel. I underestimated the time it would take for me to travel to locations on my first outing. You may also need to obtain filming permits, which usually require liability insurance. When I produce videos for the state of Nevada and the University of Nevada, Reno that require me to be on public property, such as a sidewalk or public park, I must have a film permit issued by the city. This ensures that other events won't conflict with my work, that if I damage anything, I'm covered by the state's liability insurance, and that police, park rangers, and site managers are notified in advance when I'm coming and what I'm doing. When filming on Native American tribal lands, this is especially important. Submit your scripts and travel plans as necessary. If your supervisor or the subject matter expert suggests changes, it is a whole lot easier to make changes before you start filming than if you have to go back and reshoot. Be sure to ask people if you can record them. Use a talent or video release form every time. This is a legal document outlining the person's acceptance of your video or audio recording, what they should expect, such as payment or no payment, who owns the final products, what the video will be used for, etc. Your company or school may already have an approved form, so be sure to ask your supervisor or knowledgeable person about this. Now that the planning phase is done, we move to the recording phase, also known as production. This is a messy and complicated phase that is greatly impacted by the amount of planning you put in. More planning, easier production. We'll pick up that discussion in the next video.